Oh, hello everyone. Tashitele. I hope everyone is doing well. And yeah, welcome back to the Lojong session. So, as usual, we take a few moments to do some practice together, recitation of some powerful mantras, dedicating for the peace and happiness of all the numberless sentient beings, for world peace, and also specifically dedicating to overcome, natural and the man-made challenges that are occurring in our world, in particularly during this time, including this pandemic, natural disasters, war, etc. At the same time, also dedicate to those people that who need our prayer support as a spiritual family, spiritual brother, sister, who is under the protection of same guru, the same Dharma, the Buddha and the Dharma, and same community of the Sanghas that who pursue the path of liberation. So it is our responsibility to, always find opportunity to offer our prayer supports. So there are a lot of names that who submitted for prayer requests. Please do keep those in your heart. Even though that I will not read through each of the names, there are quite a lot of names, and also those whom that we know that they are in trouble. So we dedicate for that. And of course, this practice to be, genuine cause of liberation, ultimate liberation, freedom from the suffering and its causes, to be a genuine, a Buddha Dharma practice. Then we cultivate the practice on the basis of proper refuge and proper motivation of altruism. Okay. Sangye Jodang Zoje Jonala Janju Bado Dane Janzun Je Daje Jinzo Jebe Zonam Je Dola Benje Zangye Dobarai Jo Sangye Jodang Zoje Jonala Janju Bado Dane Janzun Je Daje Jinzo Jebe Zonam Dola Benje Zangye Dobarai Jo Sangye Jodang Zoje Jonala Janju Bado Dane Janzun Je Daje Jinzo Jebe Zonam Je Dola Benje Zangye Dobarai Kamge dozene zone dawa damje bambe jere dambe jene denze be godam de la cha se lo donye nye zondo jo be la ma zeje kanje de de be chana be mo denze ja zo la so wa de zo da ju jinje semje damje de wa da de be ju dan dem ra ju je semje damje dunga da dunga je ju dan ra wa ju je semje damje dunga me be de wa da mi ra wa ju je semje damje nye re cha da ni dan ra we ta nyo la ne bra ju ro je Semje damje dewa dan dewe jo dan demra jo je semje damje donga dan donga je jo dan rawa jo je semje damje donga mebe dewa dan mi rawa jo je semje damje nire ja dan ni dan rawe dan nyong lan nebra jo ro je semje damje dewa dan dewe jo dan demra jo je semje damje donga dan donga je jo dan rawa jo je semje damje donga mebe dewa dan mi rawa jo je semje damje nire ja dan ni dan rawa Tanyola ne bara joro je tabje doje jaje re doje jenje me do doje bejama seje lombo dambo zebe go jaje jabo de la chaze lo daya tha om muni muni ma muni yezo ha daya tha om muni muni ma muni yezo daya tha om muni muni ma muni yezo Daya tha om muni muni ma muni yezo ha Daya Tao Muni Muni Ma Muni Yeso Daya Tao Muni Muni Ma Muni Yeso Daya Tao Muni Muni Ma Muni Yeso Daya Tao Muni Muni Mahamuni Yeso Daya Tao Gade Gade Para Sam Gade Buddhi Yeso Daya Tao Gade Gade Para Sam Gade Buddhi Yeso Daya Tao 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 Gade Para Sam Gade Buddhi Yeso Omo ahun benzaran guru bema zedeo. 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 Mime zeve derje jereze, jeme jembe ombo jambe yang de boma le jomze sanwen da, kanje jembe zegen zonga ba, lo zanda be shang lo zowa de. Mime zeve derje jereze, jeme jembe ombo jambe yang de boma le jomze sanwen da. Kanje jembe zegen zonga ba, lo zanda be shang lo zowa de. Mime zeve derje jereze, jeme jembe ombo jambe yang de boma le jomze sanwen da, kanje jembe zegen zonga ba, lo zanda be shang lo zowa de. Mingme zewe derjen jene ze, teme jembe ombo jambe yang, de bon male jonzen sawe da, kanje jembe zojen zonga ba, lo santa be shan la zowa de. Mingme zewe derjen jene ze. Teme jembe ombo jambe yang, de bon male jonzen sawe da, kanje jembe zojen zonga ba, lo santa be shan la zowa de. Mingme zewe derjen jene ze, teme jembe ombo jambe yang, de bon male jonzen sawe da, kanje jembe zojen zonga ba. Lo zan da be sha la zo wa de omo mani be me hum omo mani be me hum omo mani be me hum omo mani be me omo mani be me hum omo mani be me omo dare do re zo omo dare do re zo Omo dare do re zo ha, 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 omo dare do re zo. Omo dare do re zo ha, omo dare do re zo ha, omo dare do re zo ha, omo dare do re zo. Omo dare do re zo ha, 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 omo dare do re zo ha. Omo dare do re zo ha, omo dare do re zo ha, omo dare do re zo ha, omo dare do re zo. Omo dare do re zo ha, omo dare do re zo ha. Daya da omo beganze ma beganze ranza samo gade so ha. Daya da omo beganze ma beganze ranza samo gade so. Daya da omo beganze ma beganze ranza samo gade so ha. Daya da omo beganze Ma beganze ranza zamu gade zo ha taya ta omo beganze ma beganze ranza zamu gade zo ha taya ta omo beganze ma beganze ranza zamu gade zo Daya da omo beganze, maha beganze, ranja samunga de so ha. Daya da omo beganze, maha beganze, ranja samunga de so ha. Omo mare zemam zo ha, 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 omo mare zemam zo, omo mare zemam zo ha, omo mare zemam zo ha. Daje jawa tamje dang kebra yela zambe de, dinyi geme zechun de, dhuba lame jinje. Daja jume jeze de, du jume je yang zang zo, semde zeme le jume jiba gu ne nyu do jab do zo. Jawa de nyu do dang we zeje ma do jo ne, do wa je jang ma le. De zang lang ge ba rai jo, jambe ba we je dara chen ba dang, guen do zang bo de yang de jin je, de da guen je je zo dang lo je, jawa de da tam je ram do. De zo je be jawa tam je de, ngo wo gang la jo do nga ba de, da je je be za wa de guen jang, sang bo je je ram do ngo ba rai je, sem je ne ba, je ne ba, nyu do ne le, ta jo je, do we ne ne ma le. Da do jung wa me bra jo, pa ma sem je tam je den dan, de ju je, ngen do tam je da do dong wa dang, chan ju sem ba gang na zo jo. De da guen je ma lang do ju ro je, be dang zo wa mi ge be, ye she no wo ba zam je, sem je ra wa guen je. Samba Chishin Drube Daji. Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, thank you. Okay, so we are studying Lojong, yes, mind training, and if you are using the same kind of text, then it is on page 183, and yeah, on last session, due to some technical issue, that I think I missed out the last verse from the second chapter on the Serlingpa's teaching on the stages of the heroic mind. So we are studying the text on the stages of the heroic mind by Serlingpa. And the last verse, verse 36 from chapter 2. So, so it says like this: if despite engaging single-pointedly in meditative practice, you still fail to find the freedom you seek, this is the fault of not discerning the pitfall through learning. Thinking thus, you should read the profound scripture. So I think this is the case that many of us go through. At least myself, um, uh, uh, trying, your very best to practice, whatever you study, whatever you thought that you have studied well. Then when you count, then you really receive so many times of teaching, and especially in certain texts that we repeatedly learn again and again, like such as Lamrim, such as Lojong teachings, etc., etc. Then also certain deity yoga practices, we receive so many times of repeated initiations on that particular deity, and we try to also conduct some daily sadhanas and try to do some retreat. But then at the end of the day, no sign of any achievement from the practice. The real achievement uh, from practice is to gain realization on the path. Yeah, isn't it? to gain cessation from flaws, gain cessation from delusions, gain cessation from karma, gain cessation from unhappy mind, confusions, etc., etc. But seems like, you know, 30, 40 years of, study, practice, but then somehow the delusion is not going down. It seems like delusion is, in fact, is like, always having a good party. uh, uh, then the disturbed mind, unhappy mind, also not really kind of um, degenerating. It seems like growing greater. So these are the very much like a true phase of the journey through the spiritual practice, like, at least like myself, and I hope you are not in the same position. So here, what he's saying, if despite engaging in single-pointedly in meditative practices on any topics of the Dharma, like entirety, all the different topics from Lamrim and the Lojong, etc., etc., but you still fail to find a freedom you seek, means you fail to find uh, the benefit out of it. There are two benefits. The one benefit is reduction, eradication, the cessation from the negations, from the faults, from the delusions. Mm? Then the other side of the benefit is to 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 increase, more wisdom, increase more habitual in virtuous attitudes, like realization and stages of the path. Mm? Stages of the liberation, like that. So if you are not seeing that, in very, very, very down to earth in our day-to-day life, in the simple way of understanding is that you are practicing kind of regularly, but delusions like anger, attachment, grasping, jealousy, ego, these are not decreasing. uh, uh, there's no increasement of wisdom of selfless, understanding of true nature. There's no increasement of love and compassion, etc. Then that is what I mean by fail to find the freedom that you seek from the practice. If such kind of thing is happening, then this is the fault of not discerning the pitfall through learning. You see, so when we learn the Dharma, we have to, if we don't learn in accordance with the Buddha's intention, then we will encounter pitfall in the Dharma. We will encounter hollow of not getting the actual point, that which will affect uh, the reduction of the delusions and increasements of the cessations. You see, so it's talking about very important to study, carrying the motivation that we have to study uh, what Buddha's intent is. It's not something that we want to study what you want to you know feel good about. Something that which your own ambition, that you want to get. Uh, you already kind of have a fixed mind to get what you want to get from the Dharma. It's not something that you want to get what exactly Buddha's intent is, what exactly the teaching saying it. So it's talking about that. So in another word, when we study, just studying is not good enough. We need to study until we gain the wisdom of study. So until we don't gain the wisdom of study, then we may get into the falls of falling into the pitfall. You see, the danger of falling into the danger of having incomplete in our study of Dharma. So the way we study Dharma, we have to study Dharma until we gain the wisdom out of the study of Dharma. Meaning, the wisdom is that we correctly understanding the actual Buddha's intent. There may be plenty of way of interpretations, plenty of commentaries maybe out there, whatever language that it interprets, whatever degree that it interprets, but what we need to, those are just a tool, those are just like kind of method, a way to introduce the Buddha's intent. So you see, even a Dharma teacher, when you teach the Dharma to the student, you see, we can use so many different kind of examples, so many different kind of tune, languages, the ways, but we cannot go away from the Buddha's intended teaching. You see, Buddha's intended teaching. So there you can, you see, so we can clearly understand this um, from the treatise of Tengyur, from the treatise of the great Pandita, the Nalanda Pandita, scholars' collections of their scriptures. Then the great Tibetan, Mahasiddha's the scriptures, like including like a Lamrim, what we have from Lama Tsongkhapa. You see, um, there's no self kind of what do you call the self creations. There may be so many ways to explain, but the essence, the instruction is like in accordance with the Buddha's intent. So in order to do that, then we need to really study thoroughly. We just cannot depend on one commentary. We just cannot depend on one scripture. There are so many layers of commentaries, but eventually we have to go back all the way up to, we have to trace the correctness of the teaching, going to the root. Even like this kind of teaching, that what we do, we may give so many different examples. We give day-to-day life examples and so many different way of interpretations. But then ultimately, we try to really apprehend the whole verses and try to apply that and accordingly into our practice. You see, so like that. So in case there's no effect of our practice, then there may be missing of the completeness of the Buddha's intent in that particular practice. When we do sadhana, maybe there may be missing the completeness of the visualizations. You may be visualizing very fancy way in your own ambition, but that may not be in accordance with the Buddha's intent that described in described in sadhana. So that's why when we do this extensive high tantric deity yoga sadhanas or any deity yoga sadhana, the visualization, the description of the mandalas are very complicated, but it is very important to memorize them and really visualize detail accordingly. There's no shortcut in one way. Yeah, you see. There are a few options to meditate. The very elaborate way, like such as like how described from the Lama Chöpa, like a very massiveness of the merit field. Individually, having clear and vivid and correct, recognition of the different, mandala fields. And then, like such as from the like Yamantaka tradition, Yamantaka's, practice. There's a tradition of visualization that you visualize, not in a kind of massiveness, but it's like on top of each other of those lineage gurus and the deities, etc. Then there's another tradition of Kundu Nurbuluk, Kundu Nurbuluk, that is like all the mandala, combined into one single meditation object. That could be your root guru, or the guru that who is the embodiment of all the other deities, other gurus. And guru's celestial is the celestial of all the other Buddhas celestial. You see, so but there are not it's very much there's no more than there are no like kind of fourth kind of like like a way to do that, So we try to, fit ourselves when we do, like daily yoga practices, visualization of the mandalas daily, like try to be within that recommendation, which are the recommendation from the enlightened ones. So just giving example, So it's talking about like that. So in another way, we can, even though here the pitfall is not talking about the pit instruction, here talking about the flow side, but then again there's also a conversation about the importance of the pit instruction. You see, so that is another very important element into our practice. When we are missing of those pit instructions, then it become obstacle for us to actualize the realization or the benefit from the practice. uh, is kind of falls into the flow in the completeness of the practice, etc., like that. So, so it's saying in the verse here, thinking thus, then you should read the profound scripture. So meaning you should study properly. You see, one should study until one gain the wisdom of study, and one should contemplate until we gain the wisdom of contemplation. Then one should meditate until one should gain the wisdom of meditation. Just meditating is not good enough. We must meditate until we gain the experience, we gain the realizations. So it's talking about like that. So this concludes the teaching on the contrary forces, the antidotes, from the mind training entitled Stages of the Heroic Mind. Yeah. So now we start the third chapter. The third chapter is focusing on teaching on the humiliating one's own negative mental continuum. So yeah, so the attitude of referring to this teaching, you see, even though like suggested the ways how to humiliate our negative habitual continuums. Um, mm, mm. So but then we can understand we have lots of negative habitual continuum from the past. There are plenty in our day-to-day life. Just one example. Somewhere somehow that at least once a day you just get depressed. That is a very that is an that can be example of negative habitual, that we really need to humiliate that and need to overcome that. You see, then for some people, um, just somehow day to day in just a very small matter. There's not much reasoning out there, but then get upset. Get angry. You know, those are the negative continuum that we need to humiliate. In other words, is to understand the faults of those negative emotions. To understand the disadvantage of those negative emotions, or then but in order to do that, and so the way to humiliate is for us to you know contemplate, for us to meditate, for us to really to describe the disadvantage of those negative emotions. Really need to kind of introduce to our own intelligence that anger is false and anger is harmful. To learn all uh, the negative characteristic of the anger, like how the Shantideva have emphasized in the chapter 6 of the Savacharya. So like those are the negative connotations about anger. Whenever you describe anger like that, you are very much humiliating that negative continuum, that negative mind. So similar way, each of the delusion, each of the negative cultivation has disadvantage connotations, and it has the negative characteristic. So by educating our our intellect, by educating our mind to know exactly of those negative characteristic, is very much you are humiliating the negative continuum. Or the another way is knowing, on the basis of knowing the disadvantage and the flow of the negative continuum, then rightly, timely applying the antidote is one of the another way to humiliate, uh, humiliating the negative continuum. So so like that. So roughly we learn that, then we have to practice, isn't it, in order to get the benefit of going through this teaching. So verse 37, it says, since the craving of self-interest has not entered your heart, you have not fallen into the view of lesser vehicle, you are not chained in the prison of self-existence. To you who are free, I pay homage. So this verse is, on the basis of this chapter, is the verse of paying homage. The composer pay homage. So here, paying homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, in particularly here, to be understood, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So how you understand that, the from the first line, from the first two line, there's someone that who is free from the self-interest, someone who is free from the falling into um, the view of lesser vehicle, remaining, pursuing the self-liberation, and there are practitioners there who achieve the self-liberation, the nirvana, then remain there for one's own sake of complete peace. So here talking about the object of veneration, object of homage, you who are not fault into the trap of self-interest, those who are not fall into the lesser vehicles path, such as a hero and solitary realizers path, those who are, not remain in the nirvana peace. Then the third line, you who are chained in the prison of self-existence, you who are not chained in the prison of self-existence, it is someone that, uh, you know, mm, there's someone, not, um, you know, how to say, uh, someone who is free from the grasping, the confusion in relation to, grasping of the impure world as pure, you know, the the false view of the um, suffering as a happiness, impermanent as a permanent, in another word, the third line is referring to someone that who actualized the wisdom, wisdom of emptiness or wisdom of selflessness, on the basis of renouncing the silent existence, and it is causes the karma and delusion. Uh, the earlier two line is referring to someone who actualize the altruistic mind. And who are they? They are the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So you two who are free from these two extremes, the extremes falling into the silent existence, and extreme falling into the self-liberation. Those are the Bodhisattvas, such as Arya Bodhisattvas and Buddhas. So for them, I pay homage. It's talking about that. Verse 38, I am is but a deception. I one is but an appeasement of ego. The other is but an enemy's word. I do not want, it's a hindrance. So, mm, so here, very much, humiliating the false view of the self-grasping attitude, and the force that generated of having that self-grasping attitude, such as the self-cherishing attitude, such as the rest of the other delusion like um, attachment, aversion, etc. So the first one, I am, the false view of grasping, false view of false view on the one's own identity, you know, um, either as a, uh, regarding our aggregate as I, or regarding, uh, I as some kind of permanent, uh, you know, independent, uh, mm, uh, and very much, creation of, external kind of external factor, such as like God, etc. Mm. Mm. The false view of, regarding I as one with the aggregates, I as many as number of aggregates, having the false view of I, I somewhere separate from these aggregates out there, uh, you know, or in another word, um, the false view of the I grasping, as a true existing I, you know, dualistic existing I, inherent existing I. So all this is referring to the I am. Whatever label that you give, whatever understanding that you have in on those false view, but a deception. So all these are nothing more than simply a deception, simply a false. So this is how that you through the understanding of the uh, mm, through the understanding of the wisdom that directly directly opponent to the false view, introducing that to your understanding, is the way how you humiliate the false I. Mm. Then I1 is about the appearance of ego. So because of the false view, the root false view of I grasping, the I grasping ego, then the such as self-cherishing, I want this, I don't want that, etc., etc. Is all interpretation of the false egoic view, nothing more than that. It's not a valid kind of expression, it's a false expression. So then other is about enemy's word. Then rest of the other, um, the conceptual ideas are all against the absolute reality. Is very much contradictory to the reality. Whether through the conventional reality or ultimate reality, all are, but an enemy's word. It is just simply expressions of like as it's very much like the false accusation, very much like false accusation, false claim, so he's talking about that. I do not want, and this, so therefore, um, you know, all the arising of such as, different form of grasping, the aversion grasping, attached grasping, etc. All these are the hindrances to the freedom, hindrances to the freedom from suffering, hindrances to the freedom, mm, towards the freedom, the liberations, the cessations, the enlightenment, etc. You see, so like that. So as like what Nargajuna say in the fundamental wisdom, can be understand in this summary also. It says like this: that's that an image of one's face is seen, depending on a mirror, but does not really exist as a face. So the conception of I exists dependent on the mind and the body, but like the image of the face, the I does not at all exist as its own reality. Then there's another quotation from this, same text. I am not I will not be. I have not, I will not have. So this frightens all children, and it kills the fear in the wise. You see. So in other words, the understanding of emptiness, understanding of no self, understanding of lack of inherent self, uh, brings uh, fear to the undeveloped mind. Fear to the immature, practitioners, immature people. Those are called like children. Uh, but then the wisdom of selflessness, the wisdom of lack of inherent existence of the I, in fact, bring in fact kills the fear to the wise one. You see, so like that. So this verse can be understood, in relation to these quotations. Then verse 39, it says, self and others are terms of division, attachment and aversion, words of conflict. He who makes such distinction has become deficient in profound Dharma. You see, so when we talks about, when we have this clinging, this idea and this expression, self and others, self and others, uh, mm, kind of some are closer to you and some are as if like enemy to you, some are like no relation to you in any way. you know uh, the division that made by the three partial attitude, like such as attachment, aversion, you know ignorance, etc., are very much word of conflict. Word of conflict. There's no benefit. These are the expression, these are the understanding, these are the uh, regarding regarding of conflict, regarding of suffering, regarding of faults, regarding of non-beneficial things. You see, so in another word, say these are meaningless. These are false understanding. This should be discarded from our system. You see. Mm, mm, uh, mm. So he who makes such a distinction has become deficient in profound Dharma. So whoever have that kind of idea and have so many divisions like that, the arising of this three partial attitude to the three partial objects, then uh, you can regard that you have no understanding of Dharma, or you have lacking of understanding of Dharma. You have no Dharma blessing. You have not, we can regard as you have not studied Dharma, or you study but you didn't understand the Dharma. You didn't understand Buddha's intent. You see, so Buddha's intent, uh, Buddha's teaching, in particularly here the Mahayanic Dharma, the main emphasis is altruism. When we talk about altruism, whether it's attitude of wisdom, is always talk about the interdependentness, interconnectivity. Then the attitude of universal love, the attitude of universal compassion, attitude of the immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable empathy, immeasurable wisdom. You see, in other word, in one word, the essence of the Mahayanic Dharma, or the essence of the whole Buddha Dharma. Even the earlier, the Dharma of the lesser vehicle is the preliminary, the stages of Dharma to lead the beings onto the altruistic Dharma. So therefore, the overall Buddha's intent of the 84,000 teaching Dharma is altruism. You see, so in the eyes of altruism, in the wisdom of altruism, then uh, the, there's no room for this three partial attitude. This three partial attitude to be negated. These three partial attitudes are regarded as a false attitude. False view, false understanding. It's not a normal thing. To it is just a confusional habitual. It's a wrong habitual that we have. You know, mm, that accumulated through the ignorant. You see, all these delusions are accumulated in our system through ignorance. It is not our root. You see, our root, our ultimate being is Buddha nature. You see, conventionally, ultimately, our root, our ultimate being is a Buddha nature, isn't it? We are not born with it ignorant. We are not born with these divisions. You see, we are not born with the division. Even in the context of one lifetime of human being, when the baby first time born from the mother's womb, there's no idea about uh, this three partial kind of attitude. There's no idea about those are my friend, those are my enemy, those are stranger. The baby is like completely innocent, isn't it? So eventually, the culture of our human confusion, the culture of human ignorant, you see, to do with this, the culture of the society, the culture of the education, the culture of the how material world lives, is very much kind of educate to this innocent child, say, these are your family, these are your loved one, and those are your enemy. To should stay away from them, and those are stranger that we have nothing to do. You see, even this world system was very much created by human confusion. Is very much created by the human greed. You see, this one globe, very much divided into uh, by the different people around the world, isn't it? Is truly a man-made disaster, isn't it? It's truly a man-made disaster. In the past, you see, like there's even in one country, there's so many different kingdoms. There's so many different states different kingdom. It's very much a different country. You see, even today's time, like even now, like do okay, don't want to talk about it. So anyway, you see, there's so many divisions built up. So all these are non-dharma way. You see, especially for the altruistic dharma, especially those who follow Buddha dharma, then we really have to find a common ground, common interest. Was it the common, the respect, on the common value. The common value is every single being, whether they are so-called enemy, whether they are so-called loved one or stranger, whether they are human, whether they are animal, spirit, each and individual level, we have a one sameness, one common sameness. One of the common sameness is our ultimate nature is Buddha nature. None of us is born with a negative emotion, ignorant. You see, then the ultimate nature of it is lack of inherent as a sentient being. Is a lack of inherent as such kind of three divisions. Then on top of that, in a very very ordinary, the conventional, the human kind of expression, or the expression of sentient being, everyone want happiness and do not want suffering. That is equal to everyone. You see, so on the basis of that common ground, then we need to eradicate these three kind of partial attitudes, these divisions. So based on the teaching here, then this is the teachings of the Buddha. So we have to understand that whether we truly understood Dharma or not, whether we truly practice Dharma or not, is very much can define by whether we have this three partial attitude or not. Do we still cultivate this three partial attitude or not? The more that you have oneness feeling with the more the beings, we can understand that our altruistic is growing. Our heart is really becoming closer to the Dharma. So something like that. Then verse 40. if the wise wish to conquer enemies, they should first sacrifice I and self. So when someone insult or belittle them, they will not, react with insult and profanity. Uh, yeah. Mm, if the wise, if you really, regard, true practitioner, and if you are true practitioner, uh, mm, then if you really wish to conquer uh, the enemy, like sufferings, like the delusions, the disturbances, all those unwanting things, then the uh, the smart practitioner, the wise practitioner, the first thing one should do is, one should eradicate, one should subdue the egoic false identity, the I, then uh, and to subdue and to overcome this self-cherishing attitude. So uh, or in another way understanding it, that whoever understand the root cause of all the problem, root cause of root cause of all the problem, root cause of the limitation of samsara, understanding is the self-egoic false identity, the I, and the self-cherishing attitude, and uh, finding every means, through application of practices to eradicate them, then this is, that practitioner could regard as yourself as a wise practitioner. So when someone is, so if we do that, then you are completely protected. You see, you kind of armor with the protections, with the Dharma wisdom of selflessness, and Dharma wisdom of, you know the great heart of cherishing the well-being of others. You know, in another way, you carry the wisdom of selfless, and you carry the attitude of the altruism. So because of that, then if someone insult you, someone belittled you, they will, it will not harm you. You will not feel it hurt. You will not react negatively towards the harm givers. And you yourself also will not get hurt. He's talking about that. So verse 41, even when someone injured them, they do not take the self side fight for his sake. Even if someone strip them of body, life, and possession, thinking this is to do to my own karma, they savor this as especially satisfying. So, someone that who really, bring down to the egoic, grasping, the false identity, the self-grasping attitude, and the self-cherishing attitude, then uh, even someone that literally, insulting you in a very nasty words, and literally, what was it? In actual fact, that they're really causing injured to your physical body, or you are in the position to really bring down of your reputations, bring down of your uh, um, mm, mm, yeah, you know, you see, uh, your respect, whatever, then mm, uh, you know the practitioner will not feel that it is hurting to the self. You see, the practitioner will do not take the self side and fight it is sake. Because of you have the wisdom of selflessness, wisdom of no self. Then you will not uh, sight to that false self, and retaliate to harm others. If we have the view of the false I, then the natural reaction is to protect that false I, and the way to protect that is, to retaliate with the negative emotion, with the negative actions. So once we have a certain degree of understanding of the the flow and the mistakenness of the for egoistic I and the self-cherishing attitude, then we will be free from committing negative karma in relation to false I, even in the cause of someone really, harming you. Or even in the case of someone really, strip the body and rob entire your possessions, uh, instead of um, have a revengeful mind. Instead of you get hurt, rather you have this really settled peaceful mind, in the understanding the wisdom of karma. You say, oh, these are due to my past karma. I have done like this to the person. Now this person is causing, the karma result is ripening on me right now. So instead of getting disturbed, rather you take the opportunity to purify the karma, repay the debt. You see, so in that way, then you don't commit new karma, plus you're able to purify the past negative karmic accumulations. You see, so that then in particularly those who really intact with this the practice of selflessness and practice of altruism, then whenever such kind of suffering comes in our ways, whenever adversity that comes towards your existence, you have a great satisfaction. you know you will have all the method and wisdom to take the adversity onto the path, uh, as, such as developing your heart, such as taking the opportunity to generate compassion to the harm givers, such as engaging the practice of tonglen, such as taking the opportunity to purify the karma, whenever, it's not only in the cause of someone physically harming you, but even like when we go through life challenges like sickness, strike onto your health, or financially, let's say you lost on the share market, or uh, or suddenly natural disaster, kind of like pull down your home, But even in that kind of situation, as a good practitioner of Buddha Dharma, meaning that who really know the root cause of all these disturbances, as a self-grasping egoistic I and the self-cherishing attitude, and you have been always suppressing them, always finding fault on them, always find way to eradicate them, reduce their impact to your life, then that kind of practitioner, even in that kind of real life negative circumstances, when everything is robbed from you, your health, your wealth, etc., you will not get disturbed. Rather, you will have a inner peace, inner settledness, with full of wisdom and full of method to deal with the problem, wisely, like that. It's talking about that. So verse 42, even if someone cast spell of demons and possession on them, they harbor no resentment, but help fulfill the wishes of others. For this help temper any thoughts of uh, inadequate. Yeah. So similar like before. Uh, uh, formless beings, whatever way that any form of harm that comes in your way, you see, and it is very obvious in our world. The problem comes in our way, not always from human, not always from tangible things. Sometimes the external world is everything's all right, but then something goes wrong, and some people experience is a harm that caused by spirits, caused by landlords and nagas and elemental, disturbances, elemental spirits, past karmic, ripening of the result in different form of suffering, etc. But as long as you are good Dharma practitioner, meaning that you know the wisdom of no self, at least even you have not realized, but at least the self-cherishing, the faults of self-cherishing attitude, and you've been cultivating um, training your heart in the big heart, like great compassion, great love, great forgiveness, patience, etc., etc. Then wisdom of sense of, you know, selflessness. Then you will not get any form of harm. He's talking about that. Verse 43. Even if someone close to them still away, uh, even if someone close to them still away, their circle of friends so dear to their heart, taking no offense, they savor it has most satisfying. So there's a lot of teaching that we have discussed before in the past. When you are a good practitioner, good Dharma practitioner, meaning that you have good ground hole of the wisdom of selflessness, the wisdom of emptiness, and attitude of altruism, attitude of great compassion. Then, even in the case of that, uh, you know, that that you will come to a position that you really can, give up attachment to all the clingings. Mhm. uh, Even in the case of if someone really, take away, like, in the story that we have learned before about Buddha, your wife, your children, your possession, including your kingdom, etc. Even those are taken away, that you have no sense of loss. You know you have no grasping onto it. You see. So basically that uh, you will be not harmed by any circumstances, in any negative circumstance, or in any kind of loss. Verse 44. If someone responds to their act of kindness negatively, they do not become uh, perturbed for even an instant, but recall it as kindness of inspiring forbearance. Again, similar, you see. uh, in our life that we go through now and then, we experience all the time, uh, you know, mm, uh, help. We have offer help to people, but then sometimes, in many cases, we also get reply of ingratitudes, etc. Mm. uh, but then in that kind of circumstances, someone as a good practitioner, someone really know the faults, and someone really know how to bring humility, how to humiliate the self-grasping, self-cherishing attitude. Then even in that kind of situation, you will not get any harm. You see, yeah. Whether you will you in the heart of altruism, you know, even how much people disappoint you, how much people uh, in ungratitude to you, you still will help them. You see how much they negatively reply to your kindness, you will never give up, benefiting them. You see, and you will never grasp, because you know the faults of self-grasping ego, and you know the importance of the cherishing well-being of others. That matter the most. The rest, uh, through this wisdom and attitude, you are fully protected. So it's talking about that. So now, so it says, so the second part. So now, as a mean to avert negative karma, I present, uh, mm, Serlingpa present here the division of non-aversion, contemplate others' kindness and cultivate loving kindness. Uh, Turn your own self and speed onto it. Oh. Mm. Uh, so from this onward, is specifically want to discuss about averting uh, the negative karma, talking about purifying negative karma. Hmm? Uh, I present here the division of non-aversion. Hmm? Mm, mm, in any negative circumstances, in any negative actions, that you will not actualize, anger. Mm. Rather, the way to do that is to contemplate on others' kindness and cultivate loving kindness. Uh, and you always see the faults of your own self and spit onto it. Always see the faults of yourself. The false I. false I, always see the faults of false I, and speed onto it, humiliate it by by understanding the disadvantage of it. Okay, so verse 46. Thus, until you have achieved forbearances, associate with friends of negative trait, and taking them as your focus of meditation, contemplate the defect of sight existent. So, so it's not really really talking about you go and you must go and find negative friends, then you live with them to either train your forbearances. Is not really talking about that. No doubt, no doubt in samsara, wherever you are, whether you are in monastery, whether you are in a Dharma circle, whether you are in a business world, or wherever you are, somewhere, somehow, because of the contaminated aggregates of our existence of samsara, we somehow encounter negative people, somehow encounter negative friends, negative friends in the sense that who give obstacle to your cultivation of virtue, like who bring obstacle for your learning of Dharma, learning of virtue, contemplation of virtue, Dharma, and meditation and development of virtue in Dharma. Those are called negative friends. And or in another way, is the negative friends are those who encourage you to indulge in negativities. Indulge in distractions. Distraction, the sensual distractions. You know, influence you to indulge in desires, indulge in desires activities, or then uh, group you to uh, be a destructive people in the society, etc., etc. So those are called negative friend. So here this verse meaning is where is since in the nature of samsara, we always come across people who really stir your anger, stir your virtue, and all the other reasons and the connotation as someone being as a negative friend. Then you don't really need to, as a good practitioner, then you don't really need to run away from them, and rather take the opportunity to really to achieve the perfections of patience, perfection of forbearances. This is how bodhisattvas would do. You see. Mm, so you see, so that's until you have achieved forbearances. Until you achieve that, then associate with the friends of negative trait. So you don't have to go away. You see. As I mentioned before, this goes to the good practitioner. What do you mean by good practitioner? Good practitioner means someone who really know well about the faults of self-grasping and faults of self-cherishing, and who really appreciate the wisdom, and who really cultivate the practice of selflessness, who really cultivate the practice of emptiness, who really cultivate the practice of altruism. For this kind of good practitioner, if you are in that category, then there are benefit of associating with the friends of negative trait and taking them as your focus of meditation. Now, from that day onward, instead of you get influenced by their negativity, rather you design your association with them, that taking them as your object of meditation. Every single disturbance that you get, you don't get disturbed. Rather, you take the opportunity, to develop your forbearances. Rather, you get to bring the perfection of forbearances. Like taking enemy as your guru. Like we in full of Dharma words talking about that, isn't it? So it's talking about that. So contemplate the defect of self-existence. So whenever you see the flaws of the negative friend, instead of you get influenced and you get depressed, rather you try to see the true colors of the the condemnation of karma, condemnation of delusion, and the flow of samsara, and try to gain a genuine sense of renunciation out of it, to really develop yourself, so you can practice that. So as a bodhisattva, as a genuine Buddhist practitioner, they don't run away from the filthy samsaric world. They don't run away from problem. They don't run away from, uh, you know, uh, the harms. They don't run away from harm givers. This is especially for Bodhisattva practitioners. You see. Then verse 47, cultivate great compassion especially. So this particular line you can also attach to the earlier verse, contemplate the defect of self-existence, and and taking them as your focus of meditation, contemplate the defect of self-existence and cultivate great compassion especially. You see. So when you are with a negative friend, you take that negative friend as object of your compassion. But you can also, since in this translation they put this line together in the second verse. In Tibetan writing, there's no construction of verses like that. So this line can take, I find taking together with the earlier verse is a better understanding. So for your shelter and bed sick, a cave, a caravan and ruin, or house with a leaky roof, a temple, a cattle yard, or discarded nomadic site, or reside in the gorge that displease the mind. So from this onward, verse 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, verse 52 is very much very much humiliating our unsettled, dissatisfied, uncontented, unrenounced, very distracted, sensual distracted, confused. It's really like like myself, is like totally like kind of deluded, confused, really unsettled in the unsettled in the renunciation, uh, like kind of always like very hyper in delusion, so just emphasizing about that, like emphasizing about that way that you humiliate, and that way that you find way to renounce them, so uh, so here, like like individually we can take ourselves as example, uh, for your shelter and bed sick, a cave, a caravan, a ruin, a house, a leaky vault, a temple, cattle yard, and discarded nomadic site, and reside in a gorge, displeasing the mind. At such time, you may feel unhappy within. When in the plain, you long for the mountain. When you are in the ground, then you feel like you want to stay in the mountain. Mm. Then, but you don't enjoy residing, there either, and you search for shelter, the roof, or a corner. When you move like this from place to place and feel unhappy and discouraged, conduct this self-confession, juggling by your attitude and conduct. Even the present shelter and bed are too good. Your thoughts and feelings are too good as well, for you will be lucky if your restlessness does not give birth to the hells. You will be lucky if you are not set ablaze and burn. You will be lucky if you are not burned for eons in cities of perpetually hungry and thirsty ghosts. You will be lucky if you are not born for eons in the foil town of ravenous orange, where huge mirrors of filth surge around. You should reflect further on the terror and make self the object of ridiculous and corrections. My reading is very bad. Okay, so uh, yeah, so that's it. That's it. No, so basically, it's talking about this very unsettled, ruthless, mind. Not just about where we live. About the food that we consume, about the clothes that we wear. About the people that we meet. Places that we visit. You see. You see, like we are a bit of like restless, you know, never satisfied uh, that you have, you see, and 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 it's so true. Like I think maybe all of us, I have changed so many places, like in one way like homeless, but in another way everywhere is home, uh, you see, uh, like that, you see. Mm. uh, and 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 yeah, maybe sometimes no choice, but in many cases for many people, you know we do changes home because of you feel like you need to change for a better place. You're not so happy with it. Sometimes some people, like, after living in a bungalow landed property, you feel like now living in a high-rise building, condo. And some people who are living in the condo, they think that, okay, now I want to, there's too much, staying in, you know in a high-rise building. I rather want to live in a bungalow. And some people say, I live too much time in the city. I want to go to, live in the cave. I want to live in the monastery. And those people who live in a monastery say, oh, monastery, I lived too long in a monastery. Now I want to live in the city. And some, yeah, like we just really wander around restlessly. It's not like Milarepa, you wander around as in the sense of renunciation, detachment, to particular belonging, saying that this is my home, this is my thing, this is my people. It's not like that. Milarepa is, in the heart of renunciation to everything. That's why he become a wandering yogi. But then very much like us, like at least like me, it's not a wandering yogi. It's a wandering samsaric, ruthless, restless, restless, unsettled, unpeaceful. You see, completely confused. Restless wonder. Restless wandering samsaric man. Really, isn't it? Rest, you see, uh, yeah, like that, and nowadays you can see, like, many people, like these smartphone gadgets, people like, even though it's the same usage, but then people just like whenever new products come in, you keep restlessly, you change your device, similar to like everything. Mm, you know how these companies cheat you, just putting a little bit of new feature, make you to spend so much money. Similar way, our delusion worse, all the time cheat us, kind of express a bit of dissatisfaction, a bit of, was it bit of excitement of, if I move there, I will feel more happy. If I have that, I will be more happy. If I change my partner, I will be more happy. If I change the country, I'll be more happy. You know, etc. Like even sometimes, even in the world of sangha, is maybe I should change to become a monk or nun, then I will be more happy. You see, but then after become a monk and nun, say, oh, this is a bit too hard. Maybe I change to be a lay person. And some people even do that. Then not only that, in our practices, you know, if you are really, really uh, wise practitioner, fr- from the first turning wheel of Dharma, like such as the first introduction of Dharma on Four Noble Truth, you know, you're able to grasp the entire intent of the Buddha, entire teachings of the three yanas. You may be carrying the outer aspect as an initial practitioner, but then you are richfulness with the entire Dharma. Uh, but then, uh, you know, but in many cases, we don't even get proper understanding of the initial Dharma. We kind of, look for something else. We move to the second level and the third level, like in the form of, you know, uh, like feel feel how to say, like how we move on, like sutra, tantra, even in tantra, from this deity to that deity, so it is okay, it is beneficial to progress ourselves, but in our cases we kind of abandon, um, you know discount the earlier practices, and we try to grab something new, so that become a false, that is very much like a worldly way. So it's talking about that. In short, it's talking about dissatisfaction, in talking about finding meaning in what you experience, meaning in where you are, meaning in what you have. You see, as a Bodhisattva practitioner, as a wise practitioner, then even when you are in the most filthy world, that you have to find full meaning of altruism there. If you are in the mountain, you should feel that's the most blissful celestial, to live. If you are in the house, in the city, you should feel that's the most blissful celestial of yours. If you are with this particular partner, you should feel that this is the absolute dakinis of you or dakas of you. This is the most amazing, compared to the whole world, the people. This particular home that where you are now, as a practitioner, we should completely settle that as if that this is the complete celestial mansion. You see, so it's very much talking about the importance of the renunciation, containment, detachment, so that in any position, in any way, in any circumstance, the practitioner will have a steady, progress and a success in the practice. So it's talking about that. You see. So therefore, the verse 53, the very much like conclusion, is a accepting loss of food, you should adopt austerities. Accepting loss of clothing, you should adopt humility. Sacrificing pleasure, you should meditate on its antidote. Abandoning chores entirely, you should seek non-doings. The abandoning chores here is talking about the activity that led by the eight worldly concern, or the worldly concern is talking about that. It doesn't mean that you give up your job, you give up, your family responsibility. It's not talking about that. It's talking about any chore that we do only for seeking for this very limited lifetime's benefit, not seeking for the longer benefits. It's under the influence of Edward Council. It's talking about that. You see, and you should see non-doing. It's not talking about stay not doing anything. Non-doing means non-doing things that is influenced by Edward Council. Non-doing, seek non-doing that which is free from the worldly concern. Then turn wherever you do into aid to enlightenment. So anything you do, whatever you do, wherever you are now, whatever kind of situation you are, good or bad, uh, um, whatever, whether you are kind of like, like a religious acts of practicing or not, doesn't matter. Whoever you are, okay, you are fine, but take that onto the path to enlightenment. Take that on the path. There's no stress of that you need to change to be something. You need to change the place. You need to, there's nothing to change externally. Move externally. You see, there's in order really to success in the practice, you don't have to move to cave. You don't have to move to, move to monastery, etc. It's talking about that. So wherever you are as a practice of Bodhisattva, you change your attitude. You see, change from self-grasping to emptiness, wisdom of selflessness, then the cherishing attitude into the altruistic attitude to concern the well-being of all beings. So it's talking about that. So this concludes the teaching on the humiliating one's own negative mental continuum from the mind training entitled Stages of the Heroic Mind. Okay, I conclude here. I have some teaching to attend, so I will stop here. Okay, so thank you very much. So we do short, short dedication. So whatever merit that we accumulate from this session, be the complete cause for numberless sentient beings to be free from suffering in these causes and actualize, temporary happiness up to the ultimate happiness of enlightenment. May this collective merit be complete cause, the world to be free from pandemic, from natural disasters, from man-made disasters like that, and also this collective merit be cause for the people who are going through a difficult time with health, wealth, relationship, be free from that. Also dedicate this collective merit for the long life of all the good people, like our gurus, His Son Dalai Lama, Kyabje Lama Subramitse, like yourself, your family members, everyone, enjoy good health, long life, and fulfill all your wishes accordingly. Also dedicate this collective merit for all the religious institutions like monasteries, nunneries, and Dharma centers, study groups, all free from inner outer secret obstacles, and actualize all the conducive conditions to preserve the virtue and the Dharma, both in extensive learning and realization on the stages of the path. Yeah. So in short, may we able to practice like how the teaching, emphasize, so that we can be most beneficial to the world, most beneficial to yourself, like that. Okay, so thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye. Thank you.